Okay, so there's this huge civil court case happening right now in the Netherlands, one that could have some serious global repercussions. But here's the wild part, it's all going down almost entirely in secret, and it's filled with twists and turns that sound honestly more like a political thriller than a real legal proceeding. It really makes you wonder, right? What in the world is going on in that Dutch courtroom, and why is it being kept so quiet? Because as you're about to see, this is anything but your typical court case. All right, let's just dive right into the drama of it all, because it's pretty intense. Get this, one of the prosecuting lawyers was recently arrested by armed police. A key witness in the case dies unexpectedly. And through all this, the entire proceeding is being kept highly confidential, even as these incredibly serious accusations are being made against some of the most powerful people on the planet. To really get a handle on what's at stake here, we first need to look at who is on each side of this battle. It's essentially a small group of private citizens going up against a whole lineup of global heavyweights. And the sheer scale of this matchup is, well, it's staggering. On one side, you've got 9 Dutch citizens. They all say they were fit and healthy before vaccination and now claim they have serious injuries. On the other side, a list of 17 defendants that includes Bill Gates, Pfizer CEO, the former Dutch Prime Minister, and even the state of the Netherlands itself. It's a true David versus Goliath scenario, no question about it. So, what is this lawsuit really about? What's the legal foundation? Well, it all rests on 5 specific and very, very serious charges. These are basically the pillars of the whole case. First, they're alleging deliberate deception, saying a whole safe and effective narrative was used to hide known risks. Second, they're claiming complicity in bodily harm, arguing that the vaccines directly caused their chronic injuries. Third, abuse of power and coercion, using mandates and social pressure to get people to fall in line. The fourth one is huge, accusing leaders of coordinating a global agenda, using the pandemic as a sort of Trojan horse for what some call the Great Reset. And finally, they argue that all of this violates Dutch law, human rights law, and even the Nuremberg Code, which is all about informed consent. Now, with charges that explosive on the table, you can probably guess that the arguments from the prosecution and the defense are worlds apart. Yeah, the prosecution is not mincing words at all. The lead lawyer, Peter Stassen, described what's happening in court as, and I'm quoting here, an unprecedented crime accompanied by coercion, deception, and even murder. That one sentence really captures the absolute gravity of their position. The defense's response, in stark contrast, is to just consistently repeat the official narrative. Their core argument, which is being presented by a team of 8 lawyers, pretty much boils down to that simple, direct statement. The vaccines are safe and effective. So to fight back against that simple narrative, the prosecution strategy is to call on some very high-profile whistleblowers to be their expert witnesses. For instance, they've got a former Pfizer vice president, Dr. Mike Yeadon, who's expected to talk about gene therapy platforms. They also have Catherine Austin Fitts, a former assistant secretary of housing, who's going to argue this is all about a broader economic control agenda. It's pretty clear they're trying to challenge the official story from a bunch of different angles. And the defense's counter strategy, well, it's just as direct. Instead of actually debating the points these witnesses might make, they're trying to stop them from ever testifying at all. They filed a motion to have all 6 of the prosecution's witnesses excluded, arguing that their views are basically just outliers that go against the scientific consensus. So all of that brings us to this very moment, and the critical next steps in this case. What happens now is really going to determine the entire future of this lawsuit. This timeline really puts things in perspective. The case was filed back in 2023, but this year has seen things escalate, with the death of that key witness and the arrest of a lawyer. After a recent hearing on whether the court even has jurisdiction, all eyes are now on the court's next move. We're expecting a ruling around October on whether these controversial expert witnesses will even be allowed to speak. And that leaves us with the final huge question hanging over this entire thing. Even though this is a civil case, the accusations themselves are criminal in nature. So if the court finds the defendants liable, it could open the door to not just financial penalties, but maybe to actual criminal proceedings. A verdict in favor of the plaintiffs in this quiet Dutch courtroom could, quite literally, send shockwaves around the world.